This tutorial will walk you through setting up the advanced fundraiser setting of pledges. If you have not yet set up your basic fundraiser settings, then you will need to set up and save these settings first before moving on to setting up pledges, because the settings found here are dependent on your basic setup of fundraiser options. You can set up this initial fundraiser information from the Donation tab, under Setup, then Basic Setup. For more information on this topic, please refer to How to Set Up Fundraising. Once you have fundraising set up, then you can easily jump to the Pledges Setup page by going to the search bar of the dashboard and typing in Pledges. After you have typed in at least 3 letters, search results will begin to show below the box. Select Advanced Fundraiser Setup from the results listed below, and you will be brought directly to that page. You can also manually find this feature by going to the Donations tab of the race dashboard, clicking on the subheading for Setup, and then selecting Advanced Fundraiser Setup. This tutorial will cover setting up basic donation pledging, additional donation pledging settings, enabling pledges for fundraisers and team fundraisers, instructing fundraisers on enabling pledges, viewing and managing pledges, and importing pledges. Setting up basic donation pledging. Once on the Advanced Fundraiser Setup page, scroll down to the section for Donation Pledging Settings. To enable pledges, check off the box next to Allow donors to pledge donations to a fundraiser to be paid at a later time. After this box is selected, the pledge setup features will be opened up for you. First, decide on the pledge type that you would like to use with your donations by selecting one from the drop-down menu. The default pledge type is a fixed pledge amount. No matter which pledge type you select from this box, the fixed pledge amount will always be an option for those making pledges. If you would like for the fixed pledge amount to be the only option for pledges, then leave the pledge type set as fixed pledge amount. The fixed pledge amount will allow users to enter in a one-time pledge amount of their choosing and confirm their pledge. As stated previously, please note that when pledges are enabled, the fixed pledge amount option will always be available, along with whichever pledge type you select from the drop-down menu. If you would like to allow people to do a pledge per variable, as an alternative to the one-time fixed donation pledge, then you can set your pledge type to either per lap, which will allow people to make pledges to a participant, which will be multiplied by the number of laps that that participant completes. The pledge type can be set to per mile, which will allow people to make pledges to a participant, which will be multiplied by the number of miles that that participant completes. The pledge type can be set to per kilometer, which will allow people to make pledges to a participant, which will be multiplied by the number of kilometers that that participant completes. Or the pledge type can be set to per custom text. This will allow people to make pledges to a participant, which will be multiplied by the number of whichever custom variable that you enter in here that that participant completes. Please note that if you will be using the per custom text option, then you will need to enter in your custom text in its singular form, as well as in its plural form. For example, obstacle and obstacles, beer consumed and beers consumed, daisy picked and daisies picked, or hippopotamus spotted and hippopotami spotted. Just make sure that your singular form makes sense when read as dollars per blank, and that your plural form makes sense when read as final number of blanks. It is very important to note that when you are setting up your pledge type, you should be certain that this is the type that you definitely want to use with your race. If you decide to go back and switch the pledge type after fundraisers have already been enabling pledges under the existing pledge type, then this will throw off all of the existing pledge information. If you need to change the pledge type after fundraisers have already been enabling pledges under the existing pledge type, then please contact info@runsignup.com for more information. For all of the per options under the pledge type dropdown, per lap, per mile, per kilometer, or per custom text, you will find that some new fields have opened up within this section. With any of these per pledge types selected, when a donor enables pledges on their fundraiser, they will also be asked to indicate their estimated minimum number of laps, miles, kilometers, or custom text. In addition to this, they will also be asked to indicate their estimated maximum number of laps, miles, kilometers, or custom text. This will allow the person who is making the pledge to gauge what their overall donation will be once it is all calculated. You, as the race director, can set the default estimated minimum, as well as the default estimated maximum, and whichever numbers you enter in here will be the numbers that pre-fill the fields whenever a fundraiser goes through the process of enabling pledges. Also, please note that by default, these default amounts are editable by the fundraiser when they enable pledges on their fundraiser. If you would like to prevent all fundraisers from editing your default amounts, meaning that every fundraiser's estimated minimum and estimated maximum will be exactly as entered here, then you can check off the box for Enforce Defaults, and this will enforce those default amounts for all fundraisers who are enabling pledges. Similarly, you can also set specific defaults for team fundraisers, as well as enforce these defaults if necessary. Next, you will need to enter in an expected donation date. This will indicate the date and time when you would like for all pledges to be fulfilled by. It is important to note that this date is not a binding deadline. It is simply a preferred deadline for all pledge payments. All pledgers will continue to be able to make their payments online even after this date passes. Also, even if your donation period has been closed, all pledgers will continue to be able to make their payments online. If you would like to allow fundraisers to update the expected donation date on pledges, then you can check off the box to indicate this, and fundraisers will be given the option to change the expected donation date for each pledger. Please note that regardless of whether you restrict fundraisers from editing this information, or whether you allow fundraisers to edit this information, you, as the race director, will still be able to edit the expected donation date of each individual pledge. This will be explained in more detail in the upcoming section of this video for viewing and managing pledges. Lastly in this section, if you would like to offer your pledgers the option to make their donations offline, then you can use the offline payment instructions box to enter in instructions on where to send checks, as well as to indicate the information that should be included with the payment, such as the pledge ID. The pledge ID will be helpful for you to match the offline payment with the pledge in RunSignUp. Once you have your basic donation pledging settings customized to suit your race's needs, then be sure to click Save Settings, and you will receive confirmation that your changes have been saved. Additional donation pledging settings. Once you have your basic pledge settings customized, as was explained in the previous section, then you can move on to the section for Additional Settings. If you would like to allow fundraisers to manually add pledges to their fundraiser, then you can check off the box to indicate this, and after saving these changes, your fundraisers will have the option to import pledges into their fundraiser if they receive pledges offline. If you would like to include pledges in publicly listed donation totals and donor list, then you can check off the box to indicate this, and after saving the changes, all pledges, even those that have not yet been fulfilled, will be included in the total amount that is displayed publicly in places such as the donation thermometer and the scrolling list of donors. If you would like to allow fundraisers to mark that they receive manual payment for a pledge, and include these fundraiser received pledges in the publicly listed donation totals and donor list, then you can check off the box to indicate this, and fundraisers will be given the option to change whether or not they receive this pledge donation. Please note that regardless of whether you restrict fundraisers from editing this information, or whether you allow fundraisers to edit this information, you, as the race director, will still be able to indicate that a pledge was received. This will be explained in more detail in the upcoming section for Viewing and Managing Pledges. Finally, if you would like to automatically send emails to donors with instructions to complete their pledge after a participant indicates their final number of laps, miles, kilometers, or etc., then you can check off the box to indicate this, and after saving the changes, all donors who made pledges will receive an email with instructions for completing their pledge to donate once the participant that they have pledged to enters in their final number of laps, miles, kilometers, or etc. Once you have customized and reviewed all of your additional donation pledging settings, then you can go down to the bottom of the page and click Save Settings. Enabling pledges for fundraisers and team fundraisers. After you have set up the Pledges feature, then each fundraiser and fundraiser team will have the option to enable pledges. This will be explained in the upcoming section of this video for instructing fundraisers on enabling pledges. However, if you, as the race director, would like to enable pledges for a fundraiser, then you can do so by going to the Donation tab of the dashboard and clicking on the section for Fundraisers. If you would like to only enable pledges for a specific fundraiser or team fundraiser, then you can find that fundraiser by using the search fields. And once you have located the fundraiser, then under the Other Details column, click on Edit and edit the pledge settings for that specific fundraiser. Once you have filled out all of the necessary information, click on Save Settings, and pledges will then be enabled for that fundraiser or fundraiser team. On this fundraisers page, you will also have the option to enable pledges for all of your fundraisers and fundraiser teams. If you would like to enable pledges for all fundraisers and fundraiser teams at the same time, then you can simply open up the Actions drop-down, click on Enable Pledges for Fundraisers, and then save the settings. After saving, all of the existing fundraisers and fundraiser teams will have pledges enabled. Please note that any fundraisers or fundraiser teams that are created after this point will not have pledges automatically enabled. You will need to repeat this process to enable pledges for any fundraisers or fundraiser teams that are created after this point. Instructing fundraisers on enabling pledges. After you have set up the Pledges feature, then each fundraiser and fundraiser team will have the option to enable pledges. They can find this option by logging into their RunSignUp account, going to their profile, selecting My Fundraisers, and then clicking Edit Fundraiser. From here, they can go to their Pledges tab, set their minimum and maximum estimations if applicable, and enable pledges. After pledges are enabled, then fundraisers will be able to import pledges from the same page if applicable, and record the final number of the set variable if applicable. It is important to note that they will not be able to update this value after submitting this form. However, you, as the race director, can edit this value, as was explained in the previous section of this video, for enabling pledges for fundraisers and team fundraisers. For more assistance on this topic, you can also refer them to How to Enable and Manage Pledges for Fundraisers. Viewing and managing pledges. After the pledge feature has been set up, enabled for fundraisers, and people have begun to support fundraisers with pledges, then you will be able to view and manage these pledges by going to the Donations tab of the dashboard, opening up Reports, and selecting Donation Pledges. From here, you can search your donation pledges by pledge ID, first name, last name, or email, or you can scroll through your entire list of pledges manually. You can also download this report by clicking on Download All as CSV. The table found here will show you the number of pledges that have been made so far, as well as the maximum donation amount that has been pledged in total, and the maximum donation amount not collected. The maximum donation amount not collected is the amount of the pledged donations that have not actually been donated yet. For each of the pledges, you can click on Edit Pledge, and here you will be able to edit the pledger's first name, last name, and email, their On Behalf Of field, whether or not the donation is being made anonymously, the pledge amount information, whether or not the fundraiser received the pledge donation, and the expected donation date. If the pledger made a donation on RunSignUp without using the specific pledge link that was provided to them, then you can use the Donation ID field to link their RunSignUp donation to their pledge. The donation ID can be found under the Donations tab, in Reports, and Donations, by searching for the donation, and then copying the donation ID. Back on the Edit Pledge page, if you need to delete a pledge, then you can change the pledge state from active to deleted. Whenever changes are made on this page, always be sure to update the pledge to save the information. Also from the Donation Pledges report, you will have the option to import pledges. This feature will be explained in more detail in the following section for importing pledges. Importing pledges. In order to import pledges, simply go to the Donations tab of the dashboard, open up Reports, and then Donation Pledges. Scroll down to the bottom of the page, and click on the button for Import Pledges. On the import page, you will have two options for importing pledges. You can either import pledges manually, or you can upload a CSV file of the pledges that need importing. To import manually, simply fill out the required fields for each pledge. To manually import more than one pledge, you can click on Add another pledge, and repeat the process as many times as you need. Once finished, be sure to click on Import Pledges, and you will receive confirmation that the new pledge or pledges have been saved. Please note that you will need the fundraiser ID for importing pledges. This can be found by going to the tab for donations, opening up fundraisers, searching for the fundraiser, and copying the specific fundraiser ID that is displayed here. If you have a long list of pledges that you would like to import, then you will likely want to upload a CSV file instead of importing each pledge manually. To get a sample CSV file to use for importing, simply go back to the report for donation pledges and download the existing report as a CSV. Make sure that you delete all of the information from this report, except for the header rows. That way when you import this CSV, you aren't importing pledges that are already in your race. Once the information is cleared out, then you can start filling out your CSV with your new pledge information. After your CSV file is prepared and saved, return to the Import Pledges page and click on Choose File. Map the corresponding fields from your CSV to the import fields if necessary, and then click Continue. If the first row of your CSV contains headers, then leave the following box selected. However, if the first row does not contain headers, then make sure that this box is unchecked. Since our file's first row does contain headers, we will leave this box checked off and click Continue. The manual import form will then be filled out to match your CSV information, and you can manually add additional pledges, as explained previously, by clicking on Add another pledge. Please note that if you need to delete one of the pledges that are listed here, then you can simply click on the X for that particular row of pledge information. Once you are sure that these are the pledges that you would like to import, then click on Import Pledges, and you will receive confirmation that the pledges have been saved. A written instruction manual is also available for this topic, and can be viewed in the How To section of RunSignUp.